All right, time for Living Out, sort of their main monument. I know we've already done a bunch of monuments for them around their property, but I guess this is the main one here on Tahquitz. So kind of a big boy, kind of tall, kind of got a little width to it. Just so you know, Johnny called an audible as we were looking at it. It was sent over at 24, but just to give it a little more room, there's a stone cap that's going to go on top of both sides. So in order to have a little more room for that, because you have the backer board and everything, so we went ahead and pushed it out to 28 at the base. So nothing, you guys just build it the way I sent it. It's fine. But just so you know, it's a little wider at the base there this way, just to give it some more room for, like I said. It is directional because this arrow here has to face a certain way. So there is a port and a starboard. So the street side is the bow, and so that makes the port side basically the east side. Port's going to face towards Indio. The starboard side with the arrow that faces this way is the starboard side that faces the downtown Palm Springs, faces to the west, so west side. And in the streets is out here on Tahquitz. So that being said, it's nothing you haven't faced before, just a few little funky things I want to point out, but otherwise, but with that being said, let's get after it. Lay of the land. So we have the top box and all the little braces for all that stuff. We'll go over that. Bottom box, like you've seen before. The power box parts. You got the kind of mount lid part. You got all the pieces and bottoms and tops, all that. You got the skins for the whole thing. Keeping out, you have the permanent ones. You know, when we do stone, we have the permanent section, so that way you can take the panel off and this part. So look out for the two perms, big perms. Look out for those guys. Look out for this little guy. It's going to be a piece of 1/4 inch. I'm just going to put it in there with the Mjolnirs, I figured. But it'll have a little bit. That's going to hold the power box. I'll show you that. That's the power box clippy boy, hooky boy. So you got some decent sized Mjolnirs because the sign's so wide. Plus it's going to be covered in stone. So I want to make sure they're beefy. And there is a port and a starboard because of the arrow directions for the 063 whites. We have the 1/8 inch clear tough ack. You got the starboard, all that. And then you have your acrylics. Now, other than the arrow, which basically does flip, you don't really have to worry about when you go to put the faces in, they're kind of all the same. I think that it'll all be the same. So you don't have to worry about that so much. So like I said, it's a bottom box that you lords it, screw it together. And then because the sign itself isn't going to be that, like, it's a tall sign, but it's not like huge and heavy around the shop. But because it's getting covered in stone on the base, I did go ahead and do like a sort of a large, like heavy 2x4 down here. And I put a piece of 2x4 up the top, just in case it does need to be lifted for some reason after the stone is in place. But it will be just going out without the stone. And you know how we do, Ezekiel and his merry band of pirates will show up and put the stone on it for us. So, but I am putting that kind of bar system in there. Plus it gives us something to anchor. Cause like I said, with the face being full of copy, especially push through, there's not a lot of room to run any kind of, supports inside. So what I'm doing for this is I'm just going to do a simple C channel on both sides. So the inside will be totally open. Sort of the open floor plan concept, like we do, like that's so popular nowadays. But then I'm going to also do some bracing across the middle that will run the 2x2s right at the middle. That'll give you something to weld to. And then they will also hold the LED trays in place. So the LEDs will have a top bend just for strength to keep them rigid. And then the bottoms are going to have these little notches. And so those notches, these will be slide in sort of tool free, because you're not going to be able, because, when the face is this wide, you're not going to be able to get your hand in there to attach screws and everything. Or like when it's a single face, obviously all that stuff we can attach, we take the back off. But when it's a double face like this and it's so wide and tall, you can't get your arms in there. So it is tool free. So from a side view here, you can see where I got room for that bend, and you're going to be able to slide it in, and then it's going to rest in the little notch. So this notch here will match this notch, and it'll sit there. So that should be, kind of cool. You just slide it in, slide it out. So that makes that easy. But in order to make sure that all that's proper, got to make sure that these fit in where they go. So I just wanted to show you, so the idea is this will go inside the C channel, and you can either rivet it. So these are clearance for rivet, so you can rivet together and then actually put it all together, or you can come in and Cleco, and if you want to tack it, that's fine too. But these go on the inside of the C channel like they're a jiggy. That's why they're colored like a jiggy and they're not just gray, because they are meant to go inside the C channel, and that's going to actually give us that structure. So you can see where the orange is. That's the bend up part. And then this will be the part that goes across, and you can see it goes inside. And so that will actually hold the two faces apart from each other along with the C channel. So you can see we're making sort of this bracket system. But then that also allows you to slide that tube through, and then you can weld that flange on one side. Plus you can tack it around, obviously. So I am looking to get that 2x tacked, but this part here will be vertical, and then you can burn that to the tube as well. And then you can see that's where the little guy slides in. So that's where the white on white sits there. So T is for the top boy, that faces up, and then bottom goes on the bottom, but it faces down, but the arrow faces up, if you know what I mean. So just like that. So they kind of mirror each other, except the T has the little notches to hold the 063 white, and the bottom one actually has the notch that allows it to slide. But they're kind of the same thing. So they'll mirror each other. Go ahead and tack it, and then that will give us our strength right here in this area to hold this thing together. Otherwise, it's kind of compromised because it's only around the sides, and then this is like kind of open, so there's not a lot of structure here. Because again, with all this copy, you have to be able to get these, clears in there, get the tough ack and all that. So it is a pain in the booty when a sign is sort of this big and wide, but has so much copy in it. So anyway, so look out for that. And then these top boys here go on the inside like a jiggy. Again, that's why I have them colored. So they'll tuck to the inside like this, and then they'll touch the top. You can tack it along the top, but then that gives you something to slide your 2x4 across the top, and that's the lift point. Like I said, without the stone on it around the shop, this isn't going to be the biggest sign you've ever made. It should be fine. This is a little bit overkill, but like I say, once you get the stone on there, if we ever do have to lift it, I wanted this lifting system to have a little bit of strength. So go ahead and burn it. So that's why these guys stick down. You can slide the 2x through, and then you can burn it like we do. And then that gives us our all the way down. And then at the bottom, it's the same thing except flipped. So that will sit at the bottom of the sign, and then this goes up, and then this has the notches for the 063 white at the bottom. But you can go ahead and burn it. Yeah, here's the side view. So you have all this to burn, and then that'll just go on the inside there. You can tack it there, and you can even maybe blob some lords, because the face will be an 090 away, but you can blob some lords a little bit on these little guys that stick up right here a little bit. Put a little lords on there. But otherwise, the faces are just going to be relying on the face, on the outer frame and this. So, and then that's why I kind of have a lot of studs, because this will help also just sort of hold the face tight. So, but you can see where there's a lot of room where there's no bracing. So we'll see how this works. Should be okay. But that's it for that. And then you know how you do, you slide it through, but you can go ahead and attach these like you do. You're just going to lords and shoot screws, or rivets if you want, but I think you guys usually just shoot screws. But yes, in the streets, the street side is facing the streets. The arrows face back towards the power side. The power side is away from the street. But I was going to say the bottom box is symmetrical. There is no left, right, whatever. So, I mean, up and down, obviously. But you can do what you need there. And then again, in the interest of making sure that this thing can put up with lifting later. But again, if we ever have to lift it, it's probably because it got hit by somebody's Buick LeSabre or something. So we're probably making a new sign anyway. But just if we ever have to lift it with all the stone on it, I want this to be strong. So I gave you the little lift boys in there. You can go ahead and put those on the base there and weld those up like we do to help reinforce that 2x4, or the 2x2 to the 2x4. So anyway, but so the bottom box can go either way, but you do all like you do. And then the power will tuck in. So the way this will work is a little different. You make the box, but it's going to hang from this guy here. So this is going to be both a cover, and it's going to be how the thing hangs, because it has to be removable in order to get your hand in there. Because with the box in the way, you can't really reach in after after paint. When you guys go to put all the push throughs in, you got to be able to get your hands in there. So I went ahead and made the box removable, so that way you put it in after paint. And then install shouldn't have to mess with it either. But in order to make it removable, because it has to have this big old opening, so there's literally nothing inside to attach to. So I had to get creative. So this sort of crossbar thing, you're going to permanently attach on the top of the C channel. So again, this could be riveted, or if you want to Cleco and tack it before you put the faces on and stuff. But this will stay permanent. And that acts like a cover, water cover, all that too. The arrows both point up or out. So when you see an arrow, that's pointing out of the sign. So that's why, face it out. The little guy goes to the outside. The bigger guy is more cover on the inside, just so you know. So you can see I have it here. So it sits on top of the C channel. And like I said, you can either tack it, Cleco it and tack it, or you shoot some rivets through, and then that stays. Then the box has 4 holes that line up with the 4 holes on the top, and then that allows the box to be screwed in after everything's said and done. So this is what it looks like. You got your C channels running along the face, permanently attached to the Blue Boy, and then this will tuck in, and you can see it clearances the whites, the LEDs and stuff, so it can slide in and out. You'll be able to put a GE in there. I'm pretty sure that'll run everything. And then our switch sits down on the bottom there. But this is where what I call the little hooky boy. So look out for this piece of 1/4 inch. You're going to Lords it or tack it, whatever. So that way there's clearance, and you can see where it's going to have an island fill right there. And then that's going to hook the front of the box. So the box will come down, hook that. And then when the skin is applied to the sign, it's going to hold it in place. And then that skin will have, the spot for the switch. And then, but you can see right there, that'll be the front. So make sure that gets facing out. This is where it hooks. So make sure that guy faces the right way. Again, either an arrow means facing out or facing up. So that's up, but this is out. So that way you get it the right way. And then this faces out, because this will be the top of the switch enclosure. So you're going to sandwich this all together. You're going to make sure that this guy gets sandwiched to this guy. And then that's going to create the top of the switch enclosure. The switch enclosure will be where power comes in from the base. So install can run their power from here, run it through the box to here, and then they can get it up in here, and then they'll snake up through there and then work their way out. And then out the back, that's how you'll get your LED wires out the back of this thing from here to here to here. So that's the back. There you go. Provisions for grounding. Like I say, it's a GE. And then go ahead and make sure that this top boy is riveted in that way. And again, make sure you shoot this out, so that way because there is a little bit, you could theoretically put this in backwards, but then you'd be kind of sad. So there is a little bit of asymmetry there on the rivets. So that'll go there. And then when it comes time, you'll just screw in through the top, and it'll sit just like that. So hopefully it'll sit like that. And then that way it provides water. Water shouldn't get in there, and it shouldn't get into the switch compartment either. So, but otherwise that's it. So otherwise it's just a sign we've made before. Your cut list over here. I did say we were looking to see if we'd want to do some 4x. So let's just bring in 3x3 by quarter. Let's bring in a couple sticks, just so we have it on the rack. So just in case we're ready to go for another one or whatever. But you got some 3x3, you got some 2x4, and you got some 2x2 for lift. And as usual, if you cut these a little shy, that way they fit. Otherwise, I have them right to size that they tuck right against there. So if you cut it a little shy, you can slide this guy in there a little better. So, and so that's it. But otherwise, as usual, if you have any questions, let me see. I'll make sure I got everything. Boom, boom, boom. Yep, faces, power, streets, starboard, port. Look for that. But otherwise, I think you guys got it. But like I say, if I'm here, if you have any questions, hit me up. Check the